Hello, everybody. We have an awesome show for you today. I'm really excited. I have my friend William here, who is native to Covington, Georgia, and he is the founder and director of Relaunch Recovery, and he's going to be sharing his story with us today, and he's going to be sharing about some amazing accomplishments that he has had in his recovery journey. And William, do you want to start out, like say hello to everybody and tell them a little bit about your organization?
Sure. Hey guys, what's up? I'm William. Miss Jamie, I'm glad to be here today. Thank you so much for. It's kind of such a small world. I didn't realize you were actually kind of geographically fairly close um, to us. So that turned out to be pretty cool. So Relaunch Recovery, it's a nonprofit organization. Obviously, having battled addiction myself and been able to not only just get past it, but get past it and be able to thrive in life again. I have a great passion to try to provide that opportunity, to someone else. And that's basically what Relaunch Recovery is about. Currently, right now, um, we really are trying to open a men's home that's kind of in our area. We're trying to work with the local, judicial court system. We just know that incarceration is just not the answer a lot of times. And people need an opportunity, and that's ultimately what we want to do through the organization, is to be able to provide that opportunity through safe housing, um, and work, and obviously our faith, and all that kind of stuff. I would love to be able to carry somebody through the same opportunity that I had, and hope to be able to see those same results in someone else's life. I believe it's all in giving it back.
Absolutely. That's what they tell us anyway. So give me a little bit of backstory on how you came into addiction.
Um, I really got started early on, like a lot of folks, teenage years, just, uh, you know, I personally believe, for me, a lot of my addiction just stemmed from childhood trauma. You know, Father was an addict, an alcoholic. That kind of generationally ran in the family. Um, I do believe in generational curses, so I think that had a lot to do with that. But at a teenage, years, I, just started experimenting, um, with, you know, with substances. And ultimately, my story kind of has two parts to it. I actually got clean in my early 20s for a few years. um, I got into a lot of legal trouble, 18, 19 years old, and I wound up being fortunate enough to go through uh, a recovery organization called Teen Challenge. I'm sure you've heard of Teen Challenge before.
Yes.
So I went through the Atlanta Teen Challenge I was there for 24 months. So I was there for 2 years. Um, that is where I felt like God put a call on my life. And that's ultimately where I felt like, some transformation had taken place. Obviously, I had gotten, like I said, into a lot of legal issues. My main deal at that time was meth and cocaine, and really in alcohol. And like I said, I got into all types of legal trouble. And instead of going to prison, the judge allowed me to spend a couple years at Teen Challenge. And um, Still looking back today, that was some of probably the most impactful time period of my life. But when I got out, I was 21 years old. Pretty much walked out to nothing. You know how it is getting out of rehab.
Hmm.
You don't walk out with everything there. So I struggled to start to build a life. I got into the construction industry. I met a young lady at my church. We eventually got married. Um, we had three beautiful children, and I started my first construction company at that time. And, within a couple of years, it was very successful. We started opening out of state offices, and uh, I just started building a life, started building a family. And things were going well for a while. And after I think about 3 years or so, maybe four, I opened the door to alcohol. I let alcohol back in, and then in I think it was 2013. My father, he actually worked in my construction company. He had been working for me for 7 or 8 years at the time. He he tragically passed from an overdose, and I just I don't know. It was a difficult season for me, and instead of turning to the right things, I turned to the wrong things, and that basically began the cycle of really, you know, alcoholically drinking again. Um, and it wasn't long until I actually had a ATV accident, and that's really when I was introduced to opiates. Um,
So it was through the doctor.
through the doctor.
Right. Can we go back to one thing you were talking about with, like, so you said your dad was also had substance problems.
Yes.
So we had just have a comment here from Kyle who said, "My mom once told me she doesn't know why I am the way I am." I was like, "Are you kidding? There's 5 alcoholics in our immediate family." So you were talking about generational curses, and
Sure.
then some people say that it does run in like the DNA makeup of
Sure.
us.
I can't. I think from from personal experience, I've tried to describe this to several people. Me fighting addiction before my father passed was difficult. It was very difficult. But when he passed, it was almost like a black cloud that came over me, and there was no stopping. I mean, it was
Mhm.
almost like that thing came down the line. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it wasn't until he passed that I realized how strong of a man he actually was. He fought a monster, Um, and so yes, I definitely believe that whether it's genetic or spiritual or whatever the case is, I don't quite know that, but I know that for me, definitely it's generational.
And then in when you were in Teen Challenge, so I've done some interviews with the people from Teen Challenge, and they just always have the most amazing stories of
Yeah.
things. Like, can you tell us about, like, one of your experiences in Teen Challenge that was just like supernatural to you?
As far as like as far as what goes.
So, like, they would say like that. Basically, they would just like pray about everything. And
Sure.
like whenever there was like a need, they would pray, and then it would literally just like happen. Like God would be faithful and it would come through.
So this is a kind of random, but we had a guy there. You were talking about my accent. This guy was like redneck of redneck. I mean, this was a country boy. And we would have these Friday evening chapel services. And obviously, Teen Challenge is it's a spirit led. I mean, they're speaking in tongues and doing a lot of those types of things. And this guy was like, I do not believe in that. I don't think that stuff's real. Take that away from me. You know what I mean? Like this guy was
Mhm.
like, laying hands and praying for folks. Like, no, I don't want no part of that. And this guy winds up, the pastor actually laid hands and prayed over this guy. He completely fell over on the hardwood floors by himself. There was nobody behind him or nothing. And he is laying on the ground, just rambling off tongues. And when this guy come back too, I was like, dude, you said you wouldn't do it. He was like, man, I couldn't stop it. I'm
Uh,
like, I'm telling you, this thing's real.
that is awesome. Rivers of flowing water. I love that.
I'm telling you. But the,
That
the whole thing was is he did not believe that.
mm-hmm.
Like this was so anti what he believed in. He wasn't going for it. You know what I mean? So it was that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I love hearing teen challenge stories. I have a girl who works at one in a different state, and I always tell her like I just want to come hang out there for like 2 weeks. It would be
Yeah.
just like so fun for me, I think.
Yeah,
Um
it was, I mean, from traditional treatment, because that was really all that I knew. And I'll be honest with you, I feel like some of that stuff kind of, I wish I would have had maybe some more of the knowledge that I have today. And I may not have fallen so hard from
mhm.
grace. But it definitely was the beginning of where my life started for sure.
So then going back to what you were saying, so your dad passed away and you
Mhm.
went into a whole spiral.
Yes. So he overdosed on methadone, Xanax, and alcohol.
Mhm.
The lethal cocktail, opiates, benzos, and booze. And like I said, it was that was such a difficult season for me because the way that it happened, I felt a little bit not necessarily responsible, but I knew that I could have done something different. Funny, not a funny story, but a very true story about that. I had been my business at that time was just super successful. I had been off on a bunch of hunting trips and I was gone. And anyways, I had came back to town and my dad had called me. He died on a Saturday. This was on a Friday. He called me and I was in Snellville. I'll never forget this, at a Walmart, and I had a case of Bud Light in my buggy, and I did not want my dad to know that I was drinking again. So he was the type of guy, he never pushed himself off on anybody. But he called me. He's like, William, I want to come over tonight. He's like, I know you're leaving tomorrow to go to Alabama on another hunting trip. He's like, I really want to come over tonight. And I'm like, I look down at the beer and I'm like, I said, Dad, I'm just gonna be gone for a couple days, you know. Um, and he got a lot more serious. He's like, William, I want to come over tonight. Like, I want to see you. I want to see, Natalie. I want to see the kids. And I'm like, Dad, look, I don't have time. Like I don't have time. And I'll never forget this. You could ask my ex-wife to this day. I hung the phone up and I heard that still small voice speak to me and tell me that's the last time you'll ever talk to your father. And I looked at her and I said, you're never going to believe what I just felt like I heard. And I literally excused that entire thing to go home and drink. I
Mm.
drove to Alabama. I hunted one hunt and I got up the next morning and the paramedics were calling he was dead.
Oh my goodness. I have a very similar story about my dad too. It was Easter of 2006, and we were supposed to have, Easter at the house, and my parents were leaving like that night at like 2 o'clock in the morning to go to Aruba. And I had stayed up all night the night before, got totally drunk, ate a bunch of Xanax, went to some random guy's house and passed out for like 2 days.
Yeah.
So didn't show up for Easter dinner. And my friend and my cousin who were there kept saying, like, your dad kept asking about you. He's like, where's Jamie? Where's Jamie? Where's Jamie? And he died of a heart attack in Aruba.
Wow.
And
Sorry to
that
hear
was
that.
yeah, and that was the, something that I just regret so much. So I think that that happens a lot, to us in our lives when we're stuck in addiction. Um,
So that's basically how that went down for me. So obviously, what did I do? I dove deeper into the bottle. I had never, even in all my drinking and drugging, I had never went through like alcoholic withdrawals up until that point. But I
mhm,
started drinking, like months at a time without, taking some kind of break. And man, I started going through the withdrawal, hallucinations. I mean, alcohol withdrawal is super, super bad. I seen a guy just commented a second ago about, benzo withdrawal.
mhm.
Yes, both of those are very, very difficult, and they can be deadly. Benzos and alcohol withdrawals can be extremely deadly. So, um, but I, I actually helped do his funeral. It was a difficult season, and it was so crazy for a long time. I blamed it all on the doctors, and they put me on this medicine and all this kind of stuff. And it wasn't until I really came back into recovery and started doing some step work that I realized that I was actually drunk and got into this ATV accident, which is what caused me to break my back. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Forever I pushed that off. It was the doctors. You know what I mean? I had never even taken the responsibility that, William, you were drunk riding a four wheeler and you broke your back. Like, it started with you drinking. That was the problem. Um,
Mhm.
but anyway, so I broke my L3 and my L4, and this was, like I said, the end of 2013 or the first part of 2014, and the pain clinics were passing out pills left and right, and I wound up getting hooked up with a pain management doctor, and they put me on like 240 oxy 10s a month.
Okay.
So yeah, so I started this. I The way I describe it, it was a 3 year just vicious cycle with, you know a high amount of opiates and alcohol, and then is when I realized that, I could never take these pills right, so I would always be going through withdrawals like every month because I couldn't take them appropriately.
Mhm.
That I had to find another script to get Xanax because I needed that for my anxiety. So I literally started the same cycle of what my dad was doing. Um, and it got extremely bad. Um, my business started declining. I gained probably like 100 pounds. I was huge. I couldn't, go to the bathroom. I'm polluted with alcohol and the whole
Mhm.
opiate situation, and it was a 3 year decline to pretty much to hell. Um, And the that's really where the I guess some things really had to happen to get me to open my eyes up. Um, we actually moved to Tennessee. Me and my ex-wife and children had went up there to be a part of a church ministry up there. Now, I want to go ahead and throw this out there. I was still doing ministry stuff while doing all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wanting to throw that out there because I know there's a lot of people, you know, that are in the church and they have these secret addictions that, you know, they don't feel like they can talk to anybody about. They don't feel like anybody understands what they're going through. Well, I did that, you know. I look back today and I'm like, man, the outcome of this probably could have been a lot different had I, you know, reached out to try to allow somebody into what I was dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was truly more powerful than I was. But I
For,
but because I was in the church, I didn't feel like I could talk to anybody.
yeah, stigma, shame, all of that. Yeah,
Correct. You know,
absolutely.
you're supposed to be preaching. You're not supposed to be doing stuff like that.
Yeah, for
You know what I
sure.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was a lot of judgment, or you know, really within myself. And you know, we hear it all the time around the 12-step groups. You know, our secrets keep us sick. I don't think there's anything any more true than that. Like that is just the truth. And you know, that downward decline that I was going on, I really believe if I would have allowed somebody in to what I was dealing with, it probably wouldn't have had to end the way that it did.
Right. Absolutely. Reaching out, opening that door.
Yeah, for sure. So, long story short, and this is kind of where the relaunch thing kind of came from. So, my ex-wife wound up leaving. She went back to Georgia, and I went on a about a eight month binge, where I was bouncing from state to state. I was walking, you know, wrecking rental cars. I totaled all of our vehicles. I literally, in about a 9 month period, just blew through an 11-year marriage, all of our assets, finances, everything. Um, Ultimately, I never showed up to court for my children. I didn't even see my kids for like 8 months. I didn't even talk to them on the phone. I wouldn't even answer the phone. I was back, you know, smoking crack. I mean, I was all the way back in, and uh, it ended with an arrest. I was able to bond out at that particular time, and I actually went back to Teen Challenge for 6 months for a time of restoration. Um, and I did go back and do that. When I finally got out from there, I was still facing legal charges. I didn't have a home. I had blew through everything. I used to be a business owner of a multi-million-dollar company to I can't even rent a house. Like, I mean, I was
Mm,
like all the way at the bottom. And I managed about a year, because I remember I went and got a 1 year, you know, a 1 year chip from the local 12-step group. And it wasn't long after that year that the worry, I was still realizing that I lost complete custody of my children. I couldn't even see my own kids. I had so much damage that was out there that the fear, the all the stuff just really started. I just really started dealing with it. Like I said, I didn't have a sponsor. I wasn't really working any steps. I didn't really know a whole lot about any of that, really at that time. And I ultimately wound up going back to the doctor, getting back on my Xanax and all that. And then yeah, I'm back doing the smoking crack again. Um,
Mm,
except for this time, I got arrested again, and the judge wasn't hearing it. So that's really where life began to finally start turning around a little bit for me. I was, ultimately was incarcerated for a while. That's kind of how I came into Alcoholics Anonymous. That I was able to go through drug court in our county, and learned a lot of other therapeutic aspects of recovery. So that's kind of how I was able to finally put the teen challenge, the physical side of addiction, and kind of put the whole piece together.
right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I was a 12-step baby too. That was my my foundation, 12-step Alcoholics Anonymous. I've done, AA, NA, Celebrate Recovery. And I definitely believe in the 12 steps, and I know there's a lot of like other things that, people like add into that. And I think it's good to have a good like well-rounded like direction in recovery where you're like addressing every aspect and being, your mental, your emotional, your
Sure.
spiritual, physical.
So, Jamie, that's ultimately where Relaunch came from. I almost 5 years ago, I walked out of an incarceration period with no custody of my children. Had no home. Ultimately, my girlfriend basically, which she's my wife now, but she basically let me move in with her and her son just so that I could have an address to go through drug court.
Mm.
Um, and in the past 5 years, I was able to start Relaunch Contracting, which this past year was voted the number one roofing contractor in that same county that I went through drug court in. Um,
Awesome. That's exciting.
Man, that's so powerful. I was able to graduate from drug court sanction free. And anybody that knows anything about the accountability courts knows that a sanction free that's a big deal.
That's dedication.
Like, like dedicated, determined, and dependable. That's spot five for you right there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and a lot of prayer too, I'm sure.
A lot of it. I was able through that time period to start the civil process to legally get some custody rights back of my three children, which um, they've been back now for about 2 years. Um, so I was able to regain legal custody back of them, which has been, you're talking about an excruciating process. I mean, I'm still now, my oldest is 15. We're still having the conversations of, Daddy, why did you do this?
Mm,
You know what I mean?
right.
Still dealing with the trauma that, infected them with ultimately. And,
Hmm.
that's the part of, recovery that it's very difficult. I mean, losing, I lost my wife. Well, I didn't lose my wife. I gave my wife up to do what I was doing. But that was an 11-year marriage. My children, I mean, that's all that I really knew. They were gone. Um, no, no kind of job, business, nothing. I mean, my first company, like I said, was doing multi-millions of dollars a year to, man, I was living on the streets, like
Mm.
literally living on the streets. So relaunch to me, I was able to restart my life, like completely from nothing. And I give all the credit to the Lord, but man, some miraculous things have had taken place. So uh, my 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 roofing company's name is Relaunch Contracting. So I started Relaunch Recovery as a nonprofit. And the goal, Miss Jamie, is I would love to be able to provide the same opportunity that was granted to me to somebody else.
Yes, that is amazing. So you are, and I saw you're looking for a building now.
Uh, for the recovery or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we actually do have a physical office space for the recovery organization. With this uh, market has been very weird this year as far as like property and just different stuff like that. So we have kind of been waiting a little bit. Uh, One of the transitional centers that's in our local community is actually closing its doors this month is actually their last month being open, and we are talking with the that organization about that facility for us. So we'll see what God opens up. Um, the great thing is I have spoken with all the judges in our county. Everybody is on board to see, you know, some safe recovery housing coming to our community. So we're just still in that process of trying to make that thing happen. But not just trying to throw something together. I mean, we're really trying to do it right.
Right. So you want to have like a sober living or like a
Yeah. So I, I guess based off kind of my experience, so the model is obviously it's in a housing type setting. Accountability in the sense of them being accountable, obviously drug testing, all the standards. I mean, but we also really want to help them in working and actually getting these things that we do when we're using driver's license and back on child support and all the stuff that typically causes somebody to reoffend. We
right.
really want to put all those things in our sober living.
Right. We call that recovery capital.
Exactly.
Yes. Are you a CARES?
I am not, but a lady in our organization is.
Gotcha.
So I am. I do need to do that. I've had several of the judges talk to me about that, but I haven't.
Yeah. Well, they're not going anywhere, so
Yeah, I don't think so.
you have plenty of time. I was a CARES 32, so I think they're on 56 now.
Okay. Are you
Yeah.
still involved with? Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. We're doing. They've got the Mobilize Recovery tour going on coming
Yep.
up. So,
Yep.
there's a lot of awesome stuff going on in recovery. Because it's recovery month, so they've got the Reboot Jackson Gala is coming up. And then all the different stops on the Mobilize Recovery Tour. Acceptance Recovery Center is having a big gala coming up. So there's so
We
much.
we may know some of the same folks around. Do you know Chrissy Jacobs?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so Chrissy's she's been helping us. And Brian Kite.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. All
Yes.
those are all some of my buddies over here.
Yeah, Brian is amazing. He knows how to get things done for
Yeah,
sure.
he's a cool guy for sure.
Absolutely. You want to talk about this comment right here from Kyle?
What does it?
It says, I was supposed to see my son Sunday for the first time in 2 years. My ex texted me today and said he doesn't want to see me and doesn't care. I'm graduating rehab. He's still angry at me. It hurt a lot, but I disappeared 2 years ago. I can't blame him. I just got to hope and pray he will be ready at some point.
Do you want to say something first, or would you like for me to?
You go ahead.
Okay. Um. Well, Kyle, for me, just just basing off of my own experience. I'm not going to try to tell you. I don't give people advice. I just try to share my experience, and hopefully that'll give you some hope. I know for me with my children, I walked away literally from their lives for almost 8 months, and I mean, no phone call, no nothing. Like I said, today I'm going on 5 years now, and I am still having conversations with my children, especially my oldest daughter. She's 15 now, about why did I do what I did, and I mean, she's still dealing with hurt from that. So what I'm saying is, it's a process. And, it's kind of the old saying, actions speak louder than words. You know, Sometimes you just got to do the next right thing and allow that thing to process itself out, because we don't realize how much damage that we actually do until we start to get some sober time. I mean, it probably took me 2 years into sobriety for me to really truly be able to even see what I did. Like that stuff like that don't even come overnight. So um, I just encourage you to, I don't know if you have a sponsor or somebody like that to really start working on some of this stuff with. I don't know if where you are with any kind of amends, or if this is a situation where you just need to do a living amends, where you just need to live this thing out. I don't really know, but I would encourage you to be speaking with somebody, a sponsor or a pastor or someone that can maybe help guide you in in this reconciliation process, because it is very hurtful when we hear that our kids don't want to see us, or you're dealing with the ex and all this kind of stuff. All that stuff it's very hurtful, but at the same time we also got to understand that we did a lot of hurt to people, and a lot of that stuff does, just because we may have changed doesn't mean that it's changed. So I just encourage you to take the time, go through the process. Don't go through the process by yourself, because that's where you're going to feel defeated, um, and all of that. I definitely think getting somebody else involved with you in this, just to kind of be an ear and help guide you through it, would be very, very useful.
Absolutely. Yep. And Sammy says to keep your head up and stay the course, Kyle.
For sure.
Yeah, your sponsor can definitely help. My sponsor helped me so much in that process. I wanted so bad to have restoration with my children. My children went to my mother, which I feel like was even harder than if they would have went to like the state. I'm grateful that they went with her, but
Sure. Sure.
she being so protective over them and all of the hurt and disappointment and me not showing up and all these things, I was the kind of mom that my son would say, Mommy, will you walk me to the bus stop tomorrow? absolutely, I'll definitely be there. And then I would just take off and be gone for a month,
Yeah.
So it was, a lot of trauma, and she really like, protected them. And I really had to take a step back and, be like, okay, I'm going to have to like take my time with this, and it started
Right.
with, I'm going to text them every day. I'm just going to text like, how was your day? Like just so that they knew like mom's here. Mom did not forget about you. You know what I mean? And for you, Kyle, if you can't text your son, maybe you can text, his mom and say like, just wanted to, tell him hi, that I was thinking about him, see if you can get the message passed along, so that you're just proving like, hey, I'm here. I'm being consistent, because I feel like we've let our families down so many times that they have like this protective barrier up, because they don't want to get hurt again, and they don't want the children to get hurt.
Right.
Definitely. So that was, what I did. And I just kind of had to like honestly like submit to the authority of my mother, that she was
Wow.
and not me,
Yeah.
and that came with some major prayer.
That
And
was tough, wasn't it?
yeah, that was very tough.
I can, hey, so I understand that. So when we were going through, when I was trying to get custody rights back, they got a guardian ad litem involved, obviously, and part of the process that I had to go through, it was like a year ordeal in the court, okay? But part of the process is either my fiance or my mother had to supervise me with my own children. Like
Yep.
my mom had to come supervise me to watch my own kids. But you know what though? As hard as that was to do, Jamie, I guess I was so beat down and so humbled. It was just like, you know what? That's just what I got to do.
Right.
But that's what I have to do. But I
Yep.
did. But I did it.
Mm-hmm.
And today, I don't have to do any of those things. It's normal, that you know. But just to be able to accept the fact that I had messed up so bad that I had to have someone else supervise me with my own children, that was something that I needed that. Like I needed that level of humility. Like you were talking about with your mom. You know what I mean? And just
Yep.
having to submit to that authority. I know that was difficult.
Oh yeah.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. The Lord related it into the Bible, where it was like, I can't remember, it was like, was it Saul who was trying to kill David or something? But like the one
King,
was the king.
King
Yeah.
Saul.
Yes. And he had to like submit under his authority, because he was still king. And for that reason, he didn't kill him when he had that chance.
That's right.
And
That's
that's what the Lord used to tell me, hey, this is where you're at. And you need to submit to her authority in it. And I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, it's what, you know what I mean? It brought me to this level of, humility, and
right.
being very humbled,
Yeah.
um, and I feel like that was the start of me being able to see that, it's not always Jamie's will and Jamie's
Right.
time.
So because of my experience, and this is why did I even start this recovery thing? Why did I, you know, open up the door and, share my story out there? I had built another very good business in our town. Nobody other than a few close people had no idea whose business this was. They just knew it was doing well and it was successful. But my first experience with recovery when I went to Teen Challenge, when I got out, I started building my life. You know what I mean? And obviously that didn't work. So this time having, really a whole nother chance at life, it's not just a good idea for me. I have to give this away. Like this, it's not just like a good idea. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
this time, this go around for me, I'm not trying to just build a life for William. I'm trying to, you know, use my gifts and my talents and the things that God has given me to bring some kind of good into the world. Um, so that's kind of the mindset difference.
Mhm.
So that's ultimately why I started the recovery organization. Um, I think now our Facebook page has been up for like 7 or 8 months. We're almost at 20,000 followers. So we're just starting to get some momentum and just excited to see what God's doing.
Yeah, for sure. And what is the Facebook page called? Because I'm going to put it in the comments so everybody can go and follow it.
Relaunch recovery.
Okay. Let's see. Relaunch recovery. And to answer Kyle, my recovery date is July 20th, 2015. There we go. So I just celebrated 8 years. 8 years free from addiction. So
Congratulations.
thank you. And so I'm really excited. You know what I'm really excited the most about, William, is that there is a lack of strong spiritual men in leadership
Right.
uh, in the world and in recovery. You know what I mean? Like there's just like a lack of the just in the broken households, right? With the fathers, where are the fathers at, right?
Right.
um so I think that this is such a calling for you, and like recovery and in the kingdom of God. Like this is just really really awesome. So we will definitely have to collaborate. I'll have to come and see your place, and maybe we can do like a video with some of your employees or people in your organization,
Sure.
and we can spotlight that and bring the awareness and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For sure.
So you guys, I want you to go to the Relaunch Recovery Facebook page, follow, share. Let's help William get out this organization, and it's gonna come up off the ground running. It's gonna be amazing.
I'm just grateful to be here. Do
Um,
you have any questions for me, Miss Jamie?
I don't think so. I think that you covered pretty much everything, and you have tell me a little bit about your family.
So, uh, you're talking about being able to completely restart. So we restarted mine and my wife's relationship after. So me and her had met before I got arrested the last time. It was during that time of that the 1 year that I had. She watched me relapse the last time. We were just boyfriend and girlfriend, but we had the whole puppy love thing going on. We knew that we really liked each other. But when I got incarcerated, obviously she worked for the county, like she was like in finance for like the county that I was in the jail in the county. Like, she was like, I can't be associated with this guy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And she prayed about it, and she said that God told her that you don't need to go anywhere. This is it for him. He's done.
Wow.
So she decided to stay with me. They were talking about 3 years in prison. She was ready to go do that time with me, um, and just having somebody that believed enough in me, and some body of her stature, that would come to this jail every week to visit me and just let me know that she was there. Um, Ultimately, that's the only reason I was able to even get out and get into drug court, was the court approved me to live in her address. And that
Mm-hmm.
was a whole ordeal too, because she was involved with the finances of the county. So the judge had to look into the whole situation, like, and make sure that, because she looked into like financial records of like the program, and like he had to make sure that she wasn't going to be too deep into the cookie jar. And so anyways, it was a major ordeal. We ultimately we got married just over a year ago. um,
Awesome.
we just had so she had a child from a prior, and I had three. So we had to blend all that together, but we just had our biological son Axel. He just turned 6 months old.
Awesome.
So literally, Jamie, we have been able to restart everything.
That is so awesome. And to have an obedient woman of God right there is a blessing as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yes, 100%. And she wouldn't take any credit for any of this, but I'm telling you that apart from her and some decisions that she made, I wouldn't be sitting right here today.
Right.
Like,
Right.
so if that encourages somebody out there, hey, don't give up on your loved ones, man. You know what I mean? I'm not going to tell you to go enable them, but
Hmm.
don't give up on them.
Strong boundaries and wisdom.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
So she didn't. Her name is Brittany, but she did not give up on me, and
Is this her right here? Miss Brittany Lynch.
that's my beautiful wife right there.
Awesome. Wow, Brittany, I am thankful for you and so proud of you, and I'm so excited to see what you two as a couple, are going to be doing in Covington and
Yes,
with this community, and how many lives you're going to change through this organization. It's going to be amazing.
we're excited about it. We have had so much warfare that has came at our home, at
Yes.
us individually. I mean, we've had to really. It's been intense. Like, it's been a war, and I know, Jamie, because of what God is doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Oh, I do
So,
know. Yeah.
but just for, like I said, she would never take any credit for anything, but the whole relaunch movement started because she gave me an opportunity. You know
Yep.
what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
God gave me an opportunity, and now it's our purpose and our vision to create that same opportunity and give that thing away to somebody else. And leave the results up to God. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's what we're working to try to do.
Awesome. And it's going to happen. God is going to be faithful. You guys, planting seeds and praying and moving forward. I believe it. I'm believing it for you. And Miss Brittany, I would like to have you on the show also to be on the, the viewpoint of being the wife, the loved one of someone, in addiction, and what that was like, for her to walk through that by your side, and what it
Absolutely.
has.
I think she would love to do something like that.
Awesome. I got her committed.
There she goes.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing. And yeah, we'll be definitely doing some collaborating and seeing how God is going to use this.
Well, just remember, you know where we are. So, and I know you guys are close too. So, you know what we're trying to do in the area. You know this thing is needed so much. I mean, in every community. And we, like I said, we're trying to birth it in the right way, but then the goal is to be able to spread that thing into other communities. Um, so that's what we're trying to do.
Big things in store. You better start praying that prayer of Jabez. you heard of the prayer of Jabez?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I see that all over you guys. So that is awesome. Well, we are getting.
I was just going to say, Jamie, thank you so much for allowing me to come on.
Yeah, for sure.
And anything we can do to help you guys serve, whatever we can do, we're here.
Awesome. Appreciate that. We're going to definitely have some collaborations coming up for sure. I'm already brainstorming.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Okay.